Welcome back to 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael Aveney, and today I'm joined by Justin. Justin is an attorney for an NFLPA agent and the founder of College Athlete Consulting. He works with athletes navigating the new NIL era, helping them make decisions about their careers, their businesses and opportunities, and the lives beyond the game, like what happens after the game. So Justin, welcome to the pod. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Michael. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to being with you today.
Me too. And have this really very interesting, you got a unique perspective. And so I'm ready to dive in. Something that really stood out to me was when we were speaking is that lived experience in the system from multiple perspectives that you have. First, you were an athlete chasing the dream. Then you were a young player trusting agents and advisors around you. And now you're the person helping the next generation navigate that same world. Well, it's in a different, all in a different universe now, but the work you're doing really isn't about those contracts or those deals, which you can explain a little bit more to me about the license and the imaging of where that's going. But it's about helping athletes understand who they are beyond the sport. And that really is what clicked and resonated with me when we were talking. That's why I can't wait to dive into. But I always start out with, where are you at in the middle of all of the transformation that you're currently in? Like, what's the lay of the land?
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for all that lead in too. You said it earlier, I was an athlete and I think in a lot of ways, I still am an athlete. I still have a lot of the tendencies and a lot of the things that you learn as an athlete that are still embedded in who I am as a person. But after that, I went on and I've had a successful legal career, outside of anything to do with sports. I've litigated cases, I've done house closings, I've formed companies, I've, filed secessions. I've done a lot. I've had a robust legal career. But, a couple years ago, I kind of looked up, I woke up and I'm running my own firm and I've got two young kids and, the litigation schedule does not allow you to be around your kids as much as you think. And so, that really wasn't it for me. And frankly, I never wanted to be a lawyer. That kind of just something I happened into, as crazy as it sounds. But a lot of that now is what, it's part of the reason we're having this conversation. That for me, my career path happened after I got released from my baseball contract. My wife, brand new wife in the car. And she's like, hey, you should go be a lawyer. Literally never thought about it before. And just, fortunate and blessed that I have the ability and the opportunity to do it. But all that has led me to, sort of full circle back to the athlete. And with so much going on these days in the world of collegiate athletics and professional athletics, there's so much opportunity, and not only opportunity for wonderful things to happen for people to be able to set themselves up, but there's also opportunity for exploitation. And there's opportunity for bad actors to come in and wreck people's lives. And so, with that, I've sort of transitioned trying to I represent players, yes, but more importantly, educate those out there that are thinking about the process, that are looking at, hey, this may be something in my future. It's one of those things as a parent, do you want to teach your kids right from wrong, or do you want the world to do it? Right. And so for
Yeah.
us, in the professional representation space, it's very important, we recognize that we're not for everybody, but hey, there are some things that we do that we think, should be a bare minimum in the industry, And so we talk about that. We want to educate the athletes and we, to your point earlier, it's more of a relationship for us, especially now with, high school athletes and navigating their recruiting process and all the way up through. I mean, I was at the scouting combine last week in Indianapolis, so all the way up through the NFL career, we can be there. And so it's very important for us not only to know who you are as a person when we're working with you as representation, but to your point, where you want to be, what do you want to do when this is all over with? Because it's going to end for everyone. So that's really the big transition I'm in right now. So it's prime time for this conversation.
I love what you said. I was going to ask you, was there a moment that caused you to lean more back into this full circle moment for yourself? And you mentioned your kids. So that tells me right there that family is numero uno.
Yep. And
And
there is actually. I was on vacation last summer and I was arguing emotion, and I was in a suit and tie up top and I had a swimsuit on below. My kids are like right outside the door ready to go play in the pool, and I'm like, Dad's got to handle this hearing real quick, guys. And that's really when I looked at it. I was like, there's more to life than this, and there's more to the skill set and more to the opportunity to where we can do a lot with it. So it's been a lot of fun. The transition's been a lot of fun for me.
a lot of guys in your same spot, they don't choose that. And so like that, I, I know that probably came from your family background, or you had a strong family to model that for, that you knew out of the gate that that's what that was. And that element, I can even hear before we get into the conversation, that's what you're doing for the people that you're representing too. So
Hmm.
it's just a good thing to, like, I wanted to call that out
Yeah,
because
thank you. Thank
that's
you.
not present for a lot of people. And I think it's the most important thing in the world that we can do is our family and the people that are around us,
I mean,
not just the
honestly,
game. Yeah.
yeah, honestly, I mean, growing up, to sort of segue into this, like I always knew like I wanted to be a baseball player, right? Like I always wanted to play baseball. But outside of that, the only other thing that I knew that I wanted to be was a dad and have a family. So that is something that's always been important to me, and that's part of the reason I do everything I do these days. So thank you for that.
Well, you bet. So this helps you see that it may not be that for everybody that you work with, but does that help you see that, like, when you're talking to them, that there's other parts of themselves that they might have lost whenever they got so micro focused into the game, because it can be all consuming. You could take it really seriously. Where does that aspect or your insight there play into how you communicate with the guys you're representing?
That's a great point. So I'm asked this question in a lot of ways, and one thing I've always said is, back whenever I was playing, we had to be so focused on the physical aspect of preparing ourselves to play, whether it was eating or sleeping or travel or whatever it was. They don't have those problems these days, right? Like every facility you go into is top notch. I mean, most lockers in college football actually turn into beds anyway. So like, there's no excuse for a guy not to get rest. Mental aspect of the game today is so much more difficult. We had cell phones, but they weren't what they are today. There was no such thing as the transfer portal. There was no such thing as online betting or prop betting. There's no such thing as NIL or revenue share. And so there's all these added pressures that come about. And when you put that all on top of an 18 to 22-year-old young person trying to figure out everything else going on in their life, it's massive. It's a massive weight to bear. And so, I think for me, early on, sort of when things were starting out, I had some friends that asked me to help them through the transfer portal. So sort of that small scale kind of deal. And I realized, like, not only was it something that was valuable if used correctly, right? So people could give themselves incredible opportunities and go from, a Division II school to a Division I school, and to achieve dreams and goals and things like that. But it's also, again, to the point I made earlier, it's ripe for exploitation. And so people get in
Yeah.
and they realize, like, man, there's not actually the market, there's not actually the job, there's not actually, whatever it is. And that becomes really, really challenging. And so for me, when I stopped and looked at it, I said, okay, I'm kind of coupling the things that I'm good with. I enjoyed the process. I understand how to speak to coaches and how to speak to representatives of, the team, the scouting people. Like, I've talked to them my whole life. I've negotiated my professional career with billion-dollar companies for the last 12 years. Is no different than it is, doing it now. It's just you're talking about a different subject matter. And those subject matter happens to be young people and setting themselves up at one of the most opportune moments of their life to set themselves up for the rest of their trajectory of what's going to happen to them. It's vital, and it's not something that we take lightly. And when we get an opportunity to work with a family, and I say that because, yeah, the player's the ultimate person that we're working for, but we're working with the mom and the dad. We're working with the girlfriend or
Yeah.
the fiance. We're working with the brother or the sister because they love that player more than you do. They've known that player longer than you've known them. And they're going to be around that player in every aspect of their life. One of the things that I'm really proud about that we've done is, we have put an emphasis on the life skills for our guys. Like, we've had meetings the last couple of weeks with financial advisors and CPAs and making sure that the contractual money we go out and negotiate for them is taken care of. We're teaching them how to be a professional. I got a call about one of my players that they're about to have a baby. I'm about to get married, or I'm making big time life decisions. And for us to know that we've played some part in helping them set that up, it's huge, man. It's incredible. And yeah, of course I care that they win games and I want them to do well on the field and in the classroom. But at the end of the day, all of that is
Yeah.
fleeting. The children that you bring into this world, that's the legacy, right?
Yeah.
What you do for the people around you, that's really what this is about. And so we try to talk about, man, you walk into a restaurant in Columbia, Missouri or Youngstown, Ohio, and you're a football player, you're royalty, man, and there's
Yeah.
some kid that's gonna walk in there that is gonna be inspired by you. There's an older lady who's, has grown up and gone to all of the games, and she's, like, you were an important part of those people's lives, and
Yeah.
understand that, right? Experience that. Don't just let it pass you by, and then you look back after your career's over, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Man, college was fun." Yeah, college should be fun, but it's also meaningful, and you can make these lifelong relationships, and you can impact people at present and in the future. And so, it's very important that we do those things. And honestly, when we start recruiting a player, we do background. Yeah, of course we're going to watch your film. Yeah, of course we want to see that you can play, but I want to know who you are. I want to know how you're going to treat the janitor, right? Or the equipment manager. My best friend from college is the equipment manager. Still to this day. I played with guys who've won multiple World Series, who've won awards, and they're friends of mine. Yeah, they're great. But, you know, my buddy who was the equipment manager is gonna pick me up on Monday from the airport, and we're gonna hang out and have dinner together, and, our kids are friends, and so it's those relationships are what I'm talking about, right? And they're everywhere if you look for them.
Yeah. Well, that's thank you for bringing that up because, like, we see the game, we see the parents in the stadium, wherever they're at inside their career, college or beyond. But like what you just brought up is like we forget that they've, you know, took them to all the practices. They sat through all
Mhm,
of the games in high
mhm,
school, like we forget that they have, you know, w- the investment, that's like financially, but like what they have in it too.
mhm.
So you're not just dealing with them, you're dealing with that whole thing. So that's awesome to have that perspective. I just never really thought about
Yeah,
that
I
until you
mean,
said it.
I'm coaching
It's
T-ball
huge.
right now. I'm coaching T-ball right now, so I'm living
Yeah.
it as I'm doing it, right? And so I
Yeah.
think about those moments, and some of the best things about my job now, right? Call it a job. You know, Going to the games with the families and seeing the players, before or after the game, and how much support that the families provide the players is awesome. It's so cool to see, and it's fun to immerse yourself in that. I went to a bowl game this year for the first time in a long time, and it was not a bowl game that I've ever been to, right? Like, I would never go to this game unless my client was playing in it. And it was the most fun. I honestly was like, I hope they come back next year, and I'm gonna come back, and I'm bringing my family because it was awesome. But being able to really be around those people, and again, you talk about lived experience, man. Like, I had a group of teammates that, like, my wife, who we were together in college, like, she's still friends with, the wives of my teammates from back 25 years ago. So it's incredible to understand what those relationships look like, right? And over the course of the rest of your life and career, I say it all the time. My second career was a lot better than my first one. But this career that I'm in now is largely based off of what I did as an athlete and largely based on what I learned. And so use the opportunity to set yourself up accordingly.
Now you have that. Speaking of perspectives, how is the how is it different now for younger athletes versus when you started? Like
Mm.
what are you now having to bring to the table? And we mentioned before we started recording that I was like, what's NIL? Like what does that mean? And you were saying that's kind of the game now. So it's like, is that one of the aspects? Share with us like how it's different for them or what they should be looking out for.
Yeah, I mean, all great things. There's been a lot of change in college sports over the last few years. From 2021 to now, especially, has been probably the most change that's come to the game, in its entire history. I'll say that pretty fairly. Kids are, athletes can get paid now. Roster limits or scholarship limits are gone. Roster limits are in place. The transfer portal, it's a very tricky situation to navigate. And I think that one thing that I've seen is that, especially if a player has aspirations of playing professionally, you want to set a course accordingly, right? So if you're going to play professionally, and I think about this from the standpoint of a lawyer, right? If I'm going to go litigate a case and I'm going to actually try it to a jury, I'm going to have to provide evidence. I'm going to have to be preparing for that trial when things first get started, right? So in the same context in football, if I'm going to eventually want to submit my name to the NFL draft, that starts really when I'm in college, when I'm starting to get collegiate film, when the scouts are coming to the building to recruit me, and what does the relationship between the pro liaison look like and the scouts? How many scouts come through? All that matters to an NFL, person with an NFL pedigree or person who wants to play in the league. If you don't, and college football is where you want to be, well, that's a different experience, and that's a different plan. That's a different process. I think that a young athlete should be working on some foresight. It's a little difficult at 14, 15 years old to try to plan the rest of your life. But again, hey, look, if you get into it and you're 14, 15, and you're unprepared or underprepared, and you have someone dangling a carrot of, let's say, $100,000 in the transfer portal, whether that's legitimate or not, man, that's a lot of money to a lot of people, right? And so if you don't have a plan in place, you're gonna submit yourself to the whim of being bounced around in the marketplace, right? And that's a real problem for me, because I see it all the time with athletes. I've gotten more 10:30, 11 o'clock at night text messages and phone calls about, hey man, I had this happen or that happen. Can you help me? These are not people that are looking to to get one over on their former team. Like, these people need help. They were on a team, they're no longer on a team. They were playing college football, they're no longer playing college football. And that's a scary proposition for them in the moment because, to your point earlier, Michael, they don't know who they are. They're still trying to figure that out, And so we try to look at things on a much bigger scale. We try to make decisions, that are impactful for more than just the immediate time that you're there. Because at the end of the day, look, if you're one of the top 50 players on a college football roster, you're going to get paid money. Like, that's what it is these days. The scale of what that is depends on how much you can do and how much value that you can add to the team and to the program, and so we want to make sure that, like, hey, we're not getting tied just to that. Like, that's not what this is about, but let's figure out who we are, because when we start making decisions, if somebody's dangling this or that, man, we don't want to make decisions for the wrong reasons. We don't want to be misguided, and we want to have those open conversations with guys.
Yeah, because that is in the background, whether they talk about it or not, it's got to be, the payday, that's what,
It's
yeah.
human nature. It's human nature, man. Like,
What do
it
you,
is what it is.
what do you see that they're missing about money in life? Like,
I think
when you're,
there's a
you got to bring that to the table, right? That's something got to be real about.
there's a scarcity to it, because a lot of them have never experienced it. But the craziest part for me is that it's not only the scarcity piece early, but it's like setting them up for failure after, because the way these deals are structured, you know, if guys that we've done well for, like, it's gonna be a long time before you get money like that again, and so
If
we
ever.
have to, yeah, if ever, we have to make sure they know, like, hey, this is not life changing, this is not life altering, this is an opportunity to learn how to be a professional, how to prepare yourself, how to budget, how to live. Like, we're trying to teach you how to be a man, right? Like, how to raise and
Yeah.
be a family. Like, I want you to lead a family one day. I want you to be a pillar in your community one day. I want you to, do those things. And if football is the vehicle to do it, great. Your pathway is a little bit different than someone else's, but the goal should be the same. The goal should be to build something bigger than yourself later on. And what that looks like and how you get there is very individual to the player, but we have those conversations. Like, I went this past Sunday, again, through travel. I happened to be close enough to one of our players who I texted. He was free. We had breakfast. We went to mass together. And we talked about it, like, hey, you're preparing for this stage of your life, but what's next? Like, what do you want to do next? And what does that look like? I'm on the phone with another player the other day who made a big transfer, and he's sort of in this situation, like, hey man, like, what do you want to do? How are you preparing for your life? How are you taking care of your money? Another player, again, he's having a baby. So we sent him I sent him a baby gift, and I get a call, and I'm like, hey man, like, I've told you before that this is about something different than just playing football, right? Like, these are the things that really matter to me, and I hope they matter to you too. And so, we do it a little differently. We're very excited about, the players that we work with. We're excited about the young men that they're becoming. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun, man. It's an awesome process to see.
Yeah, and I could tell you're like amazing at it because it's a lot to juggle, and you're the litigation part of your life. I can see that that plays a very specific role too about keeping that grounded and structured because there's so many things that I could imagine in that space that's not related to anything really in real life. Like that. I
That's
can see
probably
how
the most
easy it's.
that's probably the most profound statement I've ever heard on litigation. If I can say so. You're exactly right.
Which is huge. It's almost like like a Hollywood type of a thing where you get a movie, or it takes a while to get there, most people, but like at that point, your mind goes, "Oh, I could just live like this for the rest of my life," and then no, that's not the truth.
No.
But like
Yeah.
back in the day, like what you said, we had phones, but like they weren't cell phones, they weren't like
Mhm.
to have all the apps and everything on it. How does that play in like the pressure? We all have pressures
Yeah.
whenever we grow up, but like it's different now.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna tell you the most difficult thing I've seen for these young men is the betting, the sports betting. And it's
Oh
and
wow,
look,
I never would have thought of that.
well, most of the guys I work with, they're linemen. I really, really like linemen. Personalities make sense. Like, it's really, I like them. But occasionally we represent, players that are skilled position guys, wide receiver, running back, whatever. And like those guys that, hey, if you're a wide receiver, there's somebody out there that can bet on the number of catches you get today. And so if someone in your math class at, or geology 102 put $100 on you to have 4 catches, and you drop a ball in the third quarter and you end the game with 3 catches, unknowingly, you've cost your
Wow.
buddy, and so then you're going to hear from them, the DMs, on social media. It's too easy nowadays for people to access you. Coming up, it used to be, hey, like when we were in the locker room, it's the people in this building and in this room against the rest of the world. That, and we could say that because there's no one that could penetrate there. Nowadays, like, everyone has a cell phone. It goes with you everywhere. Everyone's listening it all the time. I mean, you were always capable of being approached. And that is, it's an unusual amount of stress. On top of that, now you're getting paid, right? You've
Yeah.
gone from being a high school kid with, zero responsibilities. I mean, mom and dad may even still make your lunch, right? Like, now you're living in college, and when you're supposed to be learning how to be an adult, you're supposed to be learning how to, maybe wash and fold your clothes or cook for yourself or go grocery shopping. You're doing that, but you're also having to wake yourself up and go to class, and then you're getting paid, $500,000 to catch footballs. So if you don't think the guy who's spending all his hard-earned money to come to a game on Saturday is going to tell you something about it, you're crazy. But at the same time, in the NFL, they're protected. The players are protected by a lot of different things. They're also grown men, and so it's very challenging for collegiate athletes in today's world, especially under the current circumstances. But again, that's where we're trying to come in and make sure that we know, like, hey, your identity is not rooted in being a football player. Your
Yeah.
identity is rooted in being a child of God. You're a family. You're a son and a brother and whatever it is, and you're going to be an engineer one day. You're going to be a whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
That's important for us. And along the way, if we can do some things to help you understand that, and then look, to be real, the average NFL career is 3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
If you play to a second contract in the NFL, let's just say you have a 7-year NFL career. You're retired, you're at the age of 30.
Wow.
So you
Let
have
that
you
sink
have
in.
a yeah, you have a long time between 30 and Medicare to figure it out. That's, for me, my wife will laugh. That's like 4 careers for me.
Yeah.
But really it's 35. I mean, it's a whole life to
Yeah.
live.
What do
People
they
don't
say when you bring this up to them about this space? Because they're not thinking it.
No,
Even
it's usually deer in the headlights. And then I'm like, "Hey man, it's okay. I didn't know either at your age, but I didn't have someone telling me this. I didn't have someone trying to bring the conversation to me at this age, right? I didn't have somebody trying to help me. And look, again, I'm so thankful for the opportunities that I had presented. I'm so thankful for the coaches and the players and the ups and downs, the bus rides and everything that I went through even in my professional career as an attorney to get to this point because it's informative about the way that I operate in this work with athletes. And this feels like a calling to me. This feels like something like, man, I can use this skill set, I can use the background, I can use the thing, and I can peel back the layers and figure out what really matters. And let's go out and let's build a plan and let's execute the plan to achieve those things. And if we find success in ancillary ways along the way, great, right? But every step along this path is about education. It's about empowerment. It's about the athlete being in control of their journey because one day they're going to cut loose and they're going to go be a whatever, right? I hope they're really, really good at it. And
yeah,
I hope they're good at it because of things that they learn while we're working together, you know?
yeah. Well, I think they'd be lucky as hell to have you. Like, you've got
Oh, man,
such
I
a
appreciate it.
well-rounded experience, and yeah, this conversation, like, I never know where they're gonna go, but, like,
Yeah.
I love it when I learn something or see something that I'd never seen before about a perspective about something that, I do like when I watch football on Sundays, but I'm not like a major, like, fan of it, but, like,
You know the
it's just
crazy
something that's
thing?
in our psyche. It's apple pie, all that
You know
stuff.
the
So
craziest
it's
thing? I watch football all day on Saturday, but on Sunday I don't watch the NFL much. I'm an
yeah,
NFL agent, but like at that point the hay's in the barn. Just let the guys go play. We'll figure it out on Monday or Tuesday. I do my thing with my family on Sunday, so I get Saturdays though. My wife lets me. I watch a lot of college football.
priorities, priorities. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you for this. Are you ready for your last question, your final question?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to bring this back to the athletes who might hear this conversation. If they're a young athlete who's built their entire identity around their sports from, way back in the beginning in grade school all the way through to where they're dealing with you, what questions should they start asking themselves today about who or what is beyond the game?
Hmm,
Not you
man.
telling them, but what should they start asking
Yeah,
themselves?
I think that for me, like I go back to myself at 12 years old, right? Like, what makes me as happy as being at the ballpark? What in my life makes me as happy as being here in the batting cage or, doing the drills or the work that I'm putting in? And I think when you figure out that, you'll know a little bit more about what you want to do. Like, I always love being around people. I always love being around the ballpark, but it wasn't always like I didn't always have to get the work in, but I just like being there, you know?
Yeah.
And now, like, when I stop and look at it, like I'm not doing the work, but I'm at the ballpark. I'm at the pro day. I'm at the combine. I'm at and I understand
Yeah.
it, and I'm comfortable there. I'm at peace there in my body. I feel good, and I think that, you know, again, going back, like what makes you happy about it, and what else in your life? Where do you feel that way besides being in that situation? That's probably what
I,
I tell them to ask.
I think that's incredible, like for anybody actually, because most people try to think of the thing or a thing, and you were shaping like what's the thing that makes you happy. Okay, I get it. Yeah. Man, thank you for that. That's really profound.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for being here for today
Yeah,
too.
enjoyed it.
Um,
Thanks.
Me too. So, you guys out there listening, we talk about different subjects. The conversation is always the same thread. But today we realize that sports shapes discipline, and it can also shape your character, and it also can open doors. But eventually, every athlete reaches that same moment when the uniform comes off and what remains isn't the game, it's the person you were becoming while you were playing. And maybe today is the day that we begin a new conversation with ourselves about the games that we're playing in life. Remember, there's no right way. It's just one conscious choice after the other. And we will see you on the next conversation. Bye, everybody.